Grog.
Hey everyone, it's the Cider Shed podcast with me, Peter Fickling, Kerry Warbis and Matthew Weir. The three of us are back. Kerry is fighting fit, I think. Also, Matthew is on the same body of land as us in his rural retreat in the west of England. How are you both?
I wouldn't say I'm fighting fit. I'm way better than I was. But yeah, a bit coffee and spacey still, so be warned.
Got the energy to be a pedant, Kerry.
Oh yeah, I'll always have that, Peter.
And we've got Matthew with us. I did think this week, Matthew, that the 1 week you being our rural correspondent and being, back home recharging your agricultural batteries, and there's been nothing on the pod that's that we can make use of. It's all been supercars and bollocks like that.
Yeah, well, there was the lambing, wasn't there?
And slurry storage.
Yeah. Ruth talking shit. I mean, they made a cardinal error, didn't they? I think Barb pointed this out on Twitter, and I would agree. You just don't name animals that you're going to then later slaughter. I remember the Hugh Fernley River Cottage guy saying that, that's one of the big mistakes is he let his kids once name piglets, and then they didn't want to carve them up later. But in terms of rural activity, well, I hopped on the Cider Shed Instagram yesterday and documented my journey down to the river to do my second listen, which yielded almost no notes because it's just been a colossal bag of shite this week.
Yes, it has.
Your dad is a lucky man. He lives in a very, very nice place. We get sent little treats, don't we, Kerry? Little sort of vignettes, videos.
It's nice to think of little Matthew roaming around there in his youth.
Railing against the capitalist system in the outskirts of Cheltenham. I don't know exactly where it is.
I was the youngest ever hunt saboteur. threw myself in front of the horses when I was 6 months old.
Well done, Matthew. Fist in the air. Sorry, I interrupted you. You were about to launch into an insightful piece of analysis.
The agricultural side of things in the Archers this week was all about money and how much money you have to invest in the buildings. And, poor old Ruth, they only spent tens of thousands on their milking parlour 10 years ago. They've got slurry storage regulations to deal with where it has to be covered over nowadays. So she was very, very trepidatious about Josh's rather brilliant idea, I think. Obviously, It's going to cost 40 grand, but I didn't like how she shut that down without talking to David about it first. That was one thing. And bit short-term thinking because it's going to pay for itself in 7 or 8 years.
It was wrong on many levels. I mean, one, as a mum, sort of you're selling. I mean, obviously, like Pip and Josh have always been. It's like, yes, you can be involved in the farm as long as it's our way. Yes, of course, we want to take the farm over, but you have no agency or opinions until that moment. It just doesn't make any sense. And also, they've criticised Josh endlessly for being kind of like short-termist and ambitious at the cost of kind of detail and doing things by the books. And here he is very much looking at the books and trying to think carefully about, and not just his business, which is another accusation they throw at him. He wasn't being selfish about it. I mean, obviously he needed the funding, but he had taken the time to consider their business as well. It wasn't just like, Mum, I need it, and you might as well cook, work it out for yourself.
Yeah, I thought props to him. He said, not just Hollow Tree, the whole place, not on the ground, on the roofs. There's loads of roof space that's going to waste. It was excellent.
I don't know. I imagine Pip's got a very big forehead for some reason. Chuck it on there as well.
I mean, did you talk about the fact that they can only get involved in the farm if it's on David and Ruth's terms? But I think Pip she's come out as a byproduct of that as well. She's quite similar to them in many ways, I think, whereas Josh is rallying against it. He wants to do something different. So he's always the one with the bright ideas. And the fact that they didn't really spend that much time going away thinking about it, even when it came to Vince's offer. They said, we took our time getting back to you or something like that. And it's like, well, you didn't really, did you?
It was like the next day, wasn't it? Something.
Especially with the weight of social obligation. I mean, as Lizzie quite rightly pointed out, it's incredibly rude not to accept a very recent friend's offer of a massive loan.
Yeah, That was a slightly interesting bit, wasn't it? Because Vince was saying, "I don't think they see me like other people," or something, didn't he? Oh, it sounded like Paul McCartney then.
It was a very good Paul McCartney, Kerry. You should keep that in your back. Whenever anyone wants a Beatles impersonation, just think, just do your Vince, and you'll be cheered.
If you play that bit backwards, it says "eat slurry."
Wosie Hamish on Twitter, she said, "I see Vince like Noddy Holder," which I thought was really good.
Yeah, I've got him firmly down as the considerably richer than Yao bloke from Harry Enfield.
I don't want to be that person, but I think, didn't I absolutely nail it? And it's therefore correct that it's Lovejoy.
Oh,
Ian McShane.
Ian McShane.
I see him more as that guy off Minder.
Oh, Arthur Daly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's how I envisage him, with a sort of camel coat on.
I will happily compromise. I'll happily compromise and say 50% Lovejoy, 50% the guy from London.
It's a deal. Speaking of which, his money, he's chucking 40 grand at David and Ruth on the premise that, he adores them, which is a bit weird. And he can't, he just has joy in the thought of him playing a part in the future of Brookfield. I reckon he's money laundering.
There was a king in, I think, from what would now be Uganda, who did a pilgrimage to Mecca, and half the mosques in Africa, the historic mosques in Africa, are ones that he built along the way. And apparently, they were still finding gold on the road for years as he wended his way, through all the way north. And if Vince views that the affection you can get for Ruth and David as a reason to hand out money, that's how he'd have to behave. Just throwing millions on the ground. I mean, they are so loathsome. The idea that that speech was incredibly discordant at the end.
The best bit was where he kissed Elizabeth and then gave David a hug, because David was holding his hand out for a handshake, and I thought, yeah, that's hilarious. They're both such wooden people.
Do you mean he kissed Ruth, didn't he? He went in for the kill on Ruth.
Didn't I say that?
He said Elizabeth. She wasn't there, was she?
Oh, sorry. No. Sorry. I meant, yeah. Thank you, Matthew.
I just had this vision that Elizabeth was sat there in total silence, just with her eyes boring into David's soul.
Oh, yeah, she could have been. Yeah, she got very protective about Vince, didn't she?
I mean, are we willing to believe that his intentions aren't entirely pure?
Oh, well, this is it with him, isn't it? Peter absolutely loves him as a character. So do I. But I just think there's got to be something a bit iffy.
Unless they're trying to absolutely cement him in the heart of the village. But it seems a weird way to go about it, because it's not an entire, even if it is, so let's take it at face value. He pours his heart out. He adores the Archers family, everything they've done for him. They took money from him to put on a wedding grudgingly, and moaned the whole time, and were quite mean to him and rude to him, even though he was the customer. All the stuff that builds this kind of warm relationship. But it was very over the top, wasn't it? But
yeah.
So, and sorry to massively overthink it. Right, I think Vince is a great character. I think the guy who plays Vince does a great job of playing him. I enjoy the way he's acted. But did it seem, if it was supposed to be insincere and with extra motivations, that didn't come across. I didn't feel like we as the audience were given a nod that this was anything but sincere and his true feelings. You know what I'm trying to get at?
Yeah, I do. Yeah, there isn't any hint of that really, but it just, my gut feeling is that when anyone gives anyone 40 grand, you've got to question what their motives are a little
None
bit.
of us have given each other 40 grand, have we?
No, not really.
No, unless you two have done it on the sly without telling me, which I would be.
I did slip 20 grand into Kerry's pocket and give when she was over here, just to help her out with the family.
Thanks, Matthew.
It just got lost amongst all the peanut shells and pork pie wrappers in her big pea coat.
I think what's more likely is that there's going to be something contractual, maybe not with these solar panels, but with Josh and Freddie, that he's going to be able to meddle a lot more than they would like, and therefore we're going to get tensions, and then you're going to find out that David's accidentally signed the entire farm and Josh over to Vince, and now he's like, it's some kind of Britney Spears-esque conservatorship, and there's nothing he can do. All the eggs.
I look forward to that. If that happens, that'd be good.
And Josh would go willingly as well, wouldn't he?
Yeah. But he did say, I don't even want regular payments. Just pay me back as and when you're making money back from the grid or however it works. So it didn't sound like there would be a contract.
It did seem plausible that he's not trying to make a financial gain. It's as much about giving himself license to have, like you're saying, access to Josh, access to, a say around the place. He's bought soft power, hasn't he?
Especially with Ben and Beth now hooking up as well.
Yeah. So he might not even thought it out this clearly himself. Like, he might think he's doing a good thing, but like, who's a good example? Philip and Rob. Like, if you consult Philip and Rob, they both have solid defenses for their behavior that they probably to some extent believe. Maybe, like Philip genuinely believed to a certain extent that he was, he was doing some good for those boys. But so it's similar. Vince thinks he's doing a good thing, but he's so used to using his money to control people emotionally.
Yeah, I think his love for Elizabeth is true.
Yeah, and ironically, the more he loves her, the less I love her. I find their relationship quite awkward. The way that she treats him, she's quite patronising towards him.
It's interesting that he didn't know what to get her for her birthday, though, and David's suggestions were terrible, weren't they?
Yeah, a book.
A book of token, even. I reckon a nice trip away. Wouldn't you like to be whisked away to, I don't know, Venice or something?
Surely that's the benefit of having 40 grand to burn at a moment's notice. Is even if you don't have an imagination, you can just go, hello, travel agent. Yes, it's me. Yeah, I need another hole to be dug out of, another slurry pit to be dug out of.
But that would be a memorable gift, wouldn't it? I mean, jewellery is okay, but a book as a memorable gift, I don't know, you could get a first edition of something romantic, I suppose, but I'd far rather be taken away somewhere.
Especially at the moment.
You could buy a vintage copy, first editions of the books I'm looking at on my bookshelf right now. I've got A Taste of Cider and The Virtues of Cider Making.
Perfect. The jury's out then, isn't it, on whether Vince is a wrong-un or not.
Peter wants him to be slightly, this is slightly a power grab, because you were in charge of the Twitter account this week when you put out, buy them all out, Vince, or something to that effect, wasn't it?
What I would love is I want him to be a kind of Matt Crawford figure, someone who is not bad, but Matt Crawford could be quite bad, but he's not simplist. He's not one-dimensionally bad. Those are the characters that are the most fun, aren't they? Like Jazza treads that line. He's morally, like he treated Tracy like shit over the trying to get her to have sex at work. That was a really sleazy move, and I really didn't like it. Like, if it's anyone but Jazza, and it obviously wasn't fictional, I would think I would be quite upset about it. But if you view him in the round, he's obviously a good guy. That's what I want. I want a kind of like a proper human being, which I know seems like a big ask for the Archers, but
Jazza didn't really paint himself in glory this week either, did he? In regards to Tracy.
Yeah, give up on your ambition, love.
Yeah, all she wants is perhaps to be a duty manager at a hotel somewhere a little bit further away. And he was properly clamping down on that idea, wasn't he?
Do you think it was motivated by fear of his own sort of slightly parlous state?
What was it? He said to her, it's right on your doorstep. He was really pointing out all the convenient side of it. You do love working here. It's right near. How are you going to look after your dad? I think all his reasons sounded as if they made a sense, but I think it was all more about him, as you say.
You think he'd be happy for her to get out of there, because he's clearly has his nose put out of joint by Adil Shah as well, because he kept doing this whiny impression voice, which essentially was like one of our impressions. It was just Jazzer's voice, slightly higher register.
Yeah, he doesn't like her getting any attention from others, does he? Much.
Oh no, please. I mean, I just they have to let us have some nice things. Please don't let Jazza become some kind of control freak now he's in a long-term
Mm.
relationship. I mean, it doesn't seem true to his character, but
Is it to do with his financial insecurity as well?
that's what I was thinking.
Yeah.
I wasn't thinking he was trying to control her like some kind of, horrible, monster, but more
Mm,
that he's just feeling very nervous about where their money's coming from. They've had a couple of
mm.
near misses, with Tracy nearly being fired, with him obviously nearly losing his job, and so the last thing he wants is to be sort of having to cover two households or 1.25 households.
I do have this sinking feeling that we're going to get a cost of living crisis story, and it's going to be these two.
Oh,
Yeah.
right. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And then, emotions and tempers become frayed as a result of that. All I hope, I mean, we're just lucky in the fact that we've got someone on hand in Jim to get him to wind his neck in if that starts happening.
I was thinking if Adil Shah is going to perhaps purchase Grey Gables, because we don't really quite yet know what he's here for. And he did say to Tracy, "Oh, I bet Oliver wishes he had lots of Tracys." And I do like a person who takes real pride in their work, or whatever he said. That if he buys Grey Gables, he may well promote Tracy to duty manager there or something.
It did seem fairly sincere, didn't it? His praise of her. So I didn't really suspect him of any ulterior motivations. And also,
Mm,
he's not a very complex character at the moment, isn't he? He's in full introduction mode, so he's just marching around, just kind of like saying obvious stuff and giving you kind of very broad brushstroke feel. But
mm.
my initial fear was that she's definitely going to lose her job. He's not there to buy Grey Gables as a hotel. He's so yes, he's sincere in his praise, but actually he's actually a property speculator who's going to turn the whole thing into luxury accommodation or something. And this is why Oliver's been wrestling so much with the decision. He's not worrying about stewardship of a hotel. He's
Mm,
actually abandoning the whole of Caroline's business. And so we can have both can be true. Adil can think she's amazing and she's going to lose her job, and then of
okay.
course you're going to have the extra stress of her saying to Jazza, "Well, I've lost a 3-4 week march on this."
If that is the case, though, with the converting it into something that isn't a hotel, why is he showing quite so much interest in all the posh restaurants around about the place? As if, because, I think most of us are thinking, oh, that's because he's sussing out the competition.
That's a very, very good point. But we're seeing it as him going into that room to have a meal and suss out how the staff are performing, and we're being sold that because of how he's talking to Tracy. But he could also just be it's a nice way of doing a recce of the whole place. He needs to see all the rooms, he needs to see the whole thing, or maybe he's turning it into a spa. I mean, it could just be he's changing the business fundamentally and doesn't need the existing staff or something. I don't know. I'm probably wrong, Kerry. I'm never right.
But he's showing an interest in the Orangery and Les Sœurs Erreurs and all the places around about that are sort of possibly in competition with Grey
Yeah,
Gables.
yeah. No, I think you're 100% right. I just was. It was more.
It could still be nonsense, though, couldn't it?
There's somewhere between what I said and what you and your very
Mm.
reasonable comments, which is he could be taking over the business and doesn't need, no matter how much he respects Tracy, doesn't need her.
Mm. I liked that he riled Ian though in the kitchen. he he because he was obviously poking his nose in about where they're sourcing everything from, and Ian shouted at Yaz in the kitchen.
So Matthew,
Um,
you're in the kitchen, you're forcing a mouthful of free scallops into your face, and all of a sudden a man busybodies into your workspace. What's the etiquette? If you found out that the owner had sort of given them free reign, how are you feeling? Is Ian right to be cross? Give us the inside track.
Oh, I think it's absolutely acceptable. Yeah, I mean, annoying things happen. Like front of house will let in a really annoying rep who'll come in and start trying to talk to you right in the middle of service. I think in this case he was coming in just to ask about how everything is sourced,
mm,
which is a bit odd, as you say. Like, what's his interest in it? No, I've seen it plenty of times where people are just either given very short shrift or told to leave the kitchen because now's not the time. Leave a business card and bugger off. Also, what is the strange overuse of the expression "balled out"? Freddie used it this week and last week. Last week he said Ian was in a Oliver had been in a funny mood because he bawled Ian out, and then this week he said Ian bawled Yaz out. Did you have a clever Yaz joke coming, Kerry? And Peter walked all over it, didn't he?
Yeah, I did. Peter interrupted it. Yeah, thanks, Matthew. At least you realised it was coming. I mean, it was really obvious what I was going to say.
Did I at least interrupt you to say something interesting? I can't remember.
It was about for my insight into the kitchen situation.
Oh, okay. Matt, come on, Kerry. I was bringing in our resident kitchen expert. I had to.
I love that Matthew could see his sign posted. Though that's so funny.
Yeah, because I was literally pondering, can I be bothered to make a Yaz joke? And
yeah.
I thought, no, I'm just going to drink this cider and stare at some ducklings in the river.
But no, I was going to say, I did wonder what she'd been doing since The Only Way Is Up. And she's actually a teacher in Spain, so I looked it up.
Did you hear last week, Kerry, talking of shit jokes from you, did you hear last week that I poured one out for you? I did a little geriatric cricket just to...
I know, yeah.
Trying to raise your spirits while you were ill.
Thank you, and it made me laugh.
What does Yaz teach?
It didn't say, it just said she is a teacher in Spain.
Okay, I'm going to try and make it my business to come up with a Yaz teaching joke by the end of the pod, but can't promise anything.
Okay. For some reason, I don't know why, but my brain can't accept. So you've got Yaz, and then who is the band with Alison Moyet and Vince Clarke?
Yazoo.
Yazoo. Thank you very much.
Yeah, who very confusingly in the US were called Yaz.
Yeah, that's it precisely, and I think that's why I might have lived in the States at that time. I have always been slightly annoyed with Yaz for not being Yazoo. Like I loved Yazoo, I love Vince Clarke, loved Depeche Mode, loved Erasure, all of that. So I've got this kind of sort of feral, instinctual detestation of Yaz. Also, the video was shit, but yeah.
My confusion came because in about season 2 or 3 of The Americans, the new Yazoo album is out and it features really heavily in one of the episodes, but they keep referring to them as Yaz all the way through it, and that's how I discovered that they didn't have the same name across the pond.
I wonder why they did that then.
It's the same with David. Too many noughts on the end.
Good one, Matthew.
Very nicely done.
Like it.
Kerry, you haven't seen The Americans, have you?
No.
Oh, God, it's good. I mean, I'm not one of these people who likes to recommend stuff, but I mean, it's as close as I'll come. It's really good.
I've just started watching Bridgerton, which
horny old mare.
Me and Mimi are watching it together, and today after the podcast, we're going to have a binge fest of Bridgerton.
Show the courage of your convictions and put Pornhub on. Nice mother-daughter viewing experience.
Kerry forced Pornhub to tank last week, as we mentioned on the podcast. Maybe you could bring its share price back up.
Yeah, is it doing quite healthily now?
Your neighbours know what your house is like. I mean,
of ill repute.
Bridgerton, good God. I'm actually this probably doesn't come across on the podcast, or actually at all in general. I'm incredibly prudish. I leave the room when there's any nudity on the TV. Charlotte will be sat there on her own. I'll go through to the kitchen.
Oh, don't be silly.
No, I'm sorry. Not like in dramatic. Not like if it's like a, I don't know, like a shower scene or something. But like Bridgerton or that show where they all get they all like the dating show where they get their bits out.
Oh, I mean that's just wrong, isn't it? Naked Attraction.
Do you leave the room because you get a little pajama TP?
Very little pajama TP, unfortunately, Matthew.
For me, it was Toni Basil was my first summoner of that in the Hey Mickey video.
Oh my God!
Poor little Matthew, desperately hoping his parents don't notice the massive wigwam that suddenly sprung up in the middle of the living room.
Yeah, I don't think it was. I had no real concept that it was meant to be hidden at the time. God, yeah.
You just proudly strutted around the hearth rug.
Look what Tony's done to me.
It'd be exactly how Peter was watching West Ham last night, I feel.
What happened in that? I didn't know.
They won 3-0 and then started singing au revoir to the Lyon fans, who got very annoyed.
Oh, it's Spurs Brighton tomorrow. Anyway.
Very weird times to be a West Ham fan.
One thing about the Vince stuff, which I meant to ask about, is, Elizabeth said quite poignantly to Vince, it's wonderful Freddie will learn what he needs to from you.
Mental.
And I thought, oh, shit. he is learning how to be a wheeler dealer.
His two father figures is some kind of eccentric dickhead who sort of flounces around the place like Morrissey with a bunch of flowers. That's how I picture Nigel. And then now he's got Arthur Daly / Lovejoy as his father figure. And also just incredibly, I mean, sorry to break this to Elizabeth, but if your son hasn't been sort of like successfully parented and he's been to jail by the age of 21, it's probably a little bit too late to patch the cracks, especially with, Vince.
And she was her concerns about whether Freddie will be able to take on Lower Loxley because he doesn't really get the scale of it. Her concerns are based on the fact that he is trying to do an egg rolling competition whilst also trying to make a spreadsheet about DJing.
You've just done something very clever, Kerry, which is by saying it all out loud, factually, with very few adjectives, it shows just how bananas the plot is.
Yeah, and pancakes for an Easter celebration to choose your own filling. I'm just like, what? And Adil Shah was like, oh, I always like, what was it Tracy said? You'd be interested in that. He's always interested in the finest of foods. It's like, what, a pancake tossing competition in the orangery? I did like when he called Freddie the Eggman, and he got really shitty about it, didn't he? Went, I'll show him by having an event based entirely around eggs.
I mean, Freddie's such a weird character, isn't he? That whole thing with the clue that he found really difficult about the...
yeah, were you not shouting bandstand at the radio?
Immediately, obviously, yeah. It was. I thought that one was really hard. He's like something from, I don't know, Bertie Wooster, isn't he, somehow? Like an idiot.
He's a twit, isn't he?
Well, I think we touched upon it last week, the inconsistency. On the one hand, he's got the humility to take a fairly menial job, but on the other hand, this bizarre sort of inherited ego.
And all of that, like chasing the Easter Bunny, because it's been all over social media and had 400 likes or shares. And he needs just that amount of publicity for his egg rolling. I just sort of start scratching at my eyeballs when things like this are happening.
And you're forgetting live streaming chickens. I wouldn't go anywhere near this bloody event, would you?
No, of course not.
Quite a long time ago, Kerry, you predicted egg mayhem as a result of Josh giving everyone at Steph and Liam Case's wedding salmonella or listeria. I mean, could there be egg mayhem later in the week? I mean, you had that theory that which one of you two was on Twitter saying Josh is going to forget to hard boil the eggs?
Yeah, that wasn't me, but someone in one of the Side Shed threads said, "Ooh, wouldn't it be hilarious if he doesn't boil the eggs like he promised to?"
Well, you would know, Kerry. Well, your mum rather.
I know.
The reverse.
Yeah. Do you know about this, Peter? You do, don't you?
Yeah, I do. Yeah. I tried to think what could possibly happen.
My dad's theory is his actual words were, "That's someone having a laugh." It's a very niche laugh, isn't it?
We need to explain what happened. Kerry's mum goes to the shops, Kerry, and she buys...
Oh, just a box of eggs from the supermarket, normal eggs. Started making brunch at home with the eggs and found one of them quite hard to open. So then got a knife to sort of biff it on the side because she couldn't crack it on the... And lo and behold, the egg was hard boiled. She thought, that's weird. Pulled another egg out of the box. Same thing happened. Another hard boiled egg. in her box of eggs from Sainsbury's, who didn't do anything about it, by the way. Thank you, on Twitter. They, in the end, they said they would send her a voucher for the cost of the box of eggs, and they didn't even do that.
That always irritates me. Like, it's not I'm not getting in touch because of the cost of the eggs, you wankers.
Exactly. It's like, how has this occurred? I don't know whether it was like a Sainsbury's staff person, or did it happen at the egg place? Someone laughed at me on Twitter for calling it the egg place.
Me driving to Big Sainsbury's and not having a key ingredient is, if I can afford to go to Big Sainsbury's, is worth more than the pack of eggs.
Yeah, I do think it's quite funny. Obviously, we were laughing about the fact that it had happened. She couldn't quite believe her eyes. Bless her, like she's all on her own in her kitchen, like thinking, have I lost my mind?
100 years ago, she would have thought it was a sign from Jesus.
Yeah, yes.
A couple 100 years ago, she would have been getting the local church round, found some kind of, stigmata on the shell or something.
And it wasn't on April Fool's. It was before April Fool's as well. It's like 2 weeks before.
There's a scene in the original Poltergeist where the eggs start to pop out of the carton and cook on the worktop, isn't there? I think
that always smacked me if they had a very low budget. How can we do what can we do on 50 quid?
Yeah.
And again, do you want a poltergeist who's like probably a former like brunch or breakfast short order cook? Right. Do you know what I'm really going to do here to f you up? I'm going to cook these eggs nicely as well, like a griddle.
I do wonder how many other people who shopped at Sainsbury's in New Haven got the same phenomenon in their kitchens when they open their egg boxes.
I did ask on our Insta and our Facebook, and I got to say, a round total of 0 have experienced the same thing as you.
All right. Well, this is. Yeah. Well, anyway, that's the X-Files component of the Cider Shed complete.
X-Files. Come on.
Oh, Peter.
It's right there, Peter.
Oh, Peter. Right, okay. You guys finish the pod. I'm going to go to the punishment room and think about what I've done.
It was like West Ham for that 4th goal last night. He was right in front of it and he hit the post.
Oh, West Ham and eggs.
Oh. I've got a pajama TP. I've got a Tony. I've got a Tony Award.
Oh, we're not talking about Tony Archer either.
No, God, no. that results in a miniature train.
Anyway, talking about love, it's sort of love, isn't it?
Matthew's a complex man. It takes more than just the aesthetics to get him going.
And Toni Basil. Toni Basil was an older woman, or still is.
Yeah.
I mean, I can't believe she's one of the hookers in Easy Rider that Dennis Hopper and
is she?
It's Karen Black and Toni Basil. Yeah,
Matthew knows his Basil.
Yeah. Yeah. So sugar mummies, discuss.
I said last week, didn't I, Matthew, that I was would be offended by a sort of rent boy plot. Is this equivalent to rent boying? Is the question. Like, is Ben right to be offended? Am I right to be offended?
I didn't find it in any way offensive at all, if that's even what you're asking. This goes on, and I think, if that older woman wants a companion and wants to give them money, and the person taking the money is into it and nothing bad is happening, I don't see a problem with it, really.
Our listenership between the ages of 16 and 24 just jumped enormously.
I mean, the next question is it just a companionship where he goes to dinner, or are they having sex or not? Is he lying about that?
I'm not sure it really matters, does it?
I'm just curious as to whether he is doing that or not.
I would have to say, conversationally, Rory's not the best company right now, is he? He's a bit of a dickhead at the moment.
No, he's deteriorated. Apart from being told, why is Rory so attractive? Because it's always, he's always got a boyfriend or a girlfriend. He's always finds it very easy to charm people. And yet he has evolved into an absolutely charmless character. The way he talks to Beth, the scenes between him and Beth were almost unlistenable for me. But anyway, I like to your point, Matthew. So he turns up and this woman's so infatuated with him that she's lavishing this much cash on him.
It's definitely inflating his ego as well, isn't it? I think. Yeah, maybe she's smitten. But I did look up to see if there was such a cryptocurrency as MILF coin. But there is, but I think it's a parody.
I did like Finton the Wrong on Twitter. He said, "I'm relieved Ruairi is an old-fashioned gigolo. Imagine if we had to sit through an episode of him trying to explain NFTs or something to Jenny and Brian."
Yeah, and Brian will get it, won't he? He'll be fine with it.
Yeah, this arrangement, he will, won't he?
Yeah, Jenny might have a few conniptions about it, but I think Brian's down.
Why do you think it was a woman, not a man, that is his sugar person? Because I mean, it's. Do you think that they want to? I mean, one, reinforce the fact he's bisexual, not gay. Okay, having said he's bisexual, they're going back to they're going for a relationship with a woman because he's just had Troy was his last advertised relationship, or do you think it's because they want to avoid potential trick, like stormy waters with kind of like some of the unpleasant homophobia that sort of swirls around, and it keeps things simpler to have him having a relationship with a woman. We can concentrate on the sugar nature of it, the sugar person nature of it.
Yeah, possibly that. And I think also, generally speaking, if you think of a sugar whatever, you tend to think of sugar daddy, don't you? So this is quite an interesting twist on that.
It's more useful for the kind of general conversation, isn't it? Because otherwise the story is about the sexuality, whereas actually the story is about women and young men finding themselves in this situation.
I'm now wondering about sugar mice. Are they some sort of sexual thing as well?
Have you had breakfast? I haven't had breakfast, so I could go for a couple of sugar mice.
Yeah, so there was that sort of strange angle, wasn't there? And then there was the I love you scene at Supercar Day. I mean, Supercar Day episode was insane, wasn't it?
Don't make us talk about the Supercar Day.
Jesus Christ, that was on Tuesday. All I wrote was Supercar episode. Ben lies on film to Ruairi. Then I love you. I couldn't be asked to write anything else.
I wrote "We're going sideways" in big letters. And I don't know if that was just a general opinion of archers listening in the round or a quote from the episode now. I think that was Jill, wasn't it?
Yeah, I did actually laugh when she was in the car. I think it was just, I could imagine her being thrown around the track, this sort of old crone in the back of a car. I was laughing more at that, really, than that it was a comical storyline somehow. Just I had the vision of an ancient Jill in the back of a supercar, which made me piss my pants.
It's never fun when a sitcom or a soap opera leaves its situation, is it? Like you want it to stay where it's rooted. I never like having to adjust to a new scenario.
It was quite clumsy, the whole thing about, Ben shitting himself and pretending he wasn't shitting himself, and then pretending he was great on the film, and Beth having to sort of go, we're not supposed to lie about anything. We're supposed to be straight.
My God.
That scene.
Oh.
Yeah, very, very badly written, I thought, the whole thing. Just to lead to the point where they said, I love you at the same time.
She's so naively, pompously moral. Like, it's like white lies, white lies are fine. They're absolutely fine. You don't always need, like, even you, Kerry, the ultimate truth teller. Like, you know when to turn off the tap. Like, it's not. There's nothing wrong with sparing someone's feelings when there's no, genuine malice involved.
Yeah. Kerry's got nothing to fill her Sunday afternoon. She calls her mum up and goes, look, boil a bunch of eggs, crack them, and I'm going to create this story to see if it goes viral.
Yes, I've got so much time on my hands to do that. Yeah, you're right, aren't you? Because Ben was just sort of saying on film to Ruairi, who'd bought the gift, I've had a great time. It's been this, that, and the other, which is sort of what you'd do, isn't it? You'd make out that gift you gave me was great.
Sorry, Rory. I because of my stupid and naive and immature girlfriend, I've got to tell you, it's all gone a bit shit, to be honest. And your money's been wasted because I crap myself. So yes, sorry about that.
His flappy paddle gearbox gave way.
All over the floor. Yeah.
All of that was intercut with, I think, Beth talking to Jill, where she was pretty much planting the seeds of doubt about the source of Rory's income, wasn't she? She was saying, well, he must be one hell of a trader if he's buying all of this stuff. And then one of them said something like, well, shouldn't he be spending money on books?
Jill said that, yeah.
Yes, she was already on to him in that respect.
And yet again, there was that line where Rory said to Ben, whatever you do, do not tell anybody about this.
Oh, God.
Which in soap world just means he's going to tell at least one person about this very soon.
He's not allowed to have any he's not allowed to have any secrets from Beth. He's not allowed to lie to her. So when she brings up the conversation about money, Rory's money, he's now caught in the eternal, who does he betray? His best friend or the love of his life?
Did you think, Matthew, I was meaning to say, there was one episode that began with Elizabeth sounding just like one of your language tapes.
Oh, yeah, well, she does feature quite heavily. Her and David are often having a little back and forth.
It was when she was on the phone to Vince.
This is when Vince was getting his road rage at the person in front of him.
Yeah. She was pure English as a foreign language at that point.
Yes, yeah. What was going on there? Was Vince just lying about his schedule because he was driving around trying to find a present for her? Is that what we're meant to suppose? Okay, all right.
And he ended up at David's anyway, didn't he, to sort of ask about the gift and give the 40 grand. Yeah.
But also maybe it's selling very subtly the sort of the fact that you've got backwards and forwards. You've got Beth, the daughter, insisting on truth at all times, and you've got Vince kind of operating in the grey areas, sort of making the rules up as he goes along. Well, guys, we've had. I don't think I can take much more talk about the Archers for 1 week. It's been an extraordinarily awkward 5 days for me. The supercars, lots of Beth, the risk to Tracy and Jazz's livelihoods.
No Alice and Chris though. Hooray!
Good point. Very, very good point, Kerry. So yes, you're right. Glass half full. Also, no Pip. So yes, maybe we should talk for another 45 minutes.
Let's not. My Ocado delivery's due any minute.
So this
priorities, Peter.
Precisely. Come on, Kerry. Give us the highlights.
I've got some lots of bunches of daffodils, some lamb for the Easter weekend.
Of course.
Okay. Actually, some people on Twitter were saying that that lambing lesson, that scene where they were sort of shoving their hand up and everything, that wouldn't happen apparently, and you wouldn't have gloves on, and all. People were criticising that. Anyway, I'm having some lamb delivered. Ingredients to make cakes for Easter that Mimi and I are going to make together. Loads of booze. Sort of Easter weekend loveliness. You're off to Scotland, aren't you, Peter?
I am off to Scotland. I'm off to see my lovely family up there. Try and start work on getting a passport when independence happens. So sorry, Kerry. Where would people go? What was the address on Twitter so people can get in the threads and join you in Lamb Chat?
Yeah, come find us at the Cider Shed Pod, where everything is goodly funny.
And Matthew, if people want to see pictures of you kind of wistfully strolling down country lanes, where will they find all that stuff?
Well, they can go to Instagram, which is the same as Twitter, at the Cider Shed Pod. I did post up, as well as my rambles, I posted up the photos of those books yesterday, and a recipe for Merry Orchard pheasant with force meat balls and apple cider fritters.
Could we post a picture of Toni Basil so that everyone can channel their little Matthew? No, not little Matthew. Little Matthew.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's where we are on Instagram. We've been highlighting the nice reviews that we get. So obviously, if you go to iTunes, write a nice 5-star review. We've been putting a little template up to show the best of those, and we had some nice comments on the most recent post. I haven't been on the road a bit, guys, so I haven't been able to do everything. But Amy Clark, Deborah got in touch to say Oscar for the best Archers pod goes to the Cider Shed, and
Ooh.
T and Fee said, "Happy first birthday to my favourite podcast. Would have given up on the Archers in recent times if it wasn't for you guys."
Oh, yeah. Happy birthday, lads.
Yeah, I know. We kind of missed that,
Yeah,
didn't
that's
we?
a very good point. Yeah. And actually, Matthew's within slapping distance of us, Kerry. Talking of Oscars, he's, if he did want to play one on us, we're not too far away.
I'd slap you like slap a bag of soil in a garden centre.
How's your English Easter looking, Matthew?
Well, I'm going down to Bristol this afternoon,
Mm-hmm.
going out for a few pints in Bristol, and actually flying back tomorrow afternoon to Porto. So I'll be back in time for Sunday. Before I forget, we also have an ever-growing Facebook group, which is called the Cider Shed Podcast. So come and find us there. People keep popping up, and like I said, I will get back on it with topics and subjects this week. I've just been a little bit busy this week.
Oh,
dead air.
No, that was it. Sentences at a premium. Just too busy to talk.
Oh, I'm glad you've had a good time though, Matthew, over in this shitty country.
Yeah, it's been nice. I found that after about 4 days of proper cider drinking, I did have to pop a Rennie yesterday. It's been a while that I've been on the acidic apple.
You be careful.
We're not as young as we used to be, Matthew.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, so happy Easter, everybody.
Exactly, yeah. Happy Lammas, as it should be known.
Yeah, see you next week.
Have fun.
See ya. Bye.